moving along, we're going to do a second edition of Torches and Pitchforks. And this time we're going to do it a little differently. We're just going to talk about one thing. And that one thing is Man of Steel. And of course, being that this segment is called Torches and Pitchforks, of course, we're going to talk about an unpopular opinion to hold. And that unpopular opinion, of course, is that Man of Steel is an excellent movie.
So, Alex, before we begin talking about this particular film, what's your relationship with the fictional character of Superman himself in any kind of media?
That's the thing, is he's the most ubiquitous superhero that's ever existed. There is some, I don't know if this is bullshit or not, but there's all these articles. Do you know it's the third most recognizable symbol behind the Star of David
and the crucifix or whatever?
Yeah, and the cross and all that. It's like the fact that you could say that and people, if it is true, yeah, that proves the point. Mm-hmm. But even if it's not true, the fact that you could say that and people believe it, I think that says enough. The fact is he's everywhere. Mm-hmm. You know, there was the, what was it called? Lois and Clark.
Oh, yeah.
There was that. So you had him in live action. Before that, you had the Christopher Reeves. Before that, you had the 50s one. Mm-hmm. He guest starred on Lucy.
Yeah, he did.
That's what I mean. He's everywhere. He's even on Lucy. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know what the hell else I need to say. And, of course, read the comics, watched the cartoons.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't as big of a fan of Superman. I was always a Batman kid. I was like the darker side of DC. But for me, the take of Superman that I always loved and that I still say is probably the best one is from the Bruce Timm Paul Dini show and like from Justice League. I love that Supes the most. And I remember growing up watching the what's his name? The guy Richard Donner Superman movies with Christopher Reeve and not really being a big fan of them.
I'm not really a big fan of those. And that's kind of that, you know what, that's a good jumping off point. Mm-hmm. So we've established whatever. You like Batman, who gives a shit. Mm-hmm. I like Batman too. It doesn't matter. We're talking about Superman.
Yes.
We're talking about Superman, man. Anyway, so let's jump off right there.
The Donner films.
They're boring.
Yes.
They're like pretty boring. And I get that, you know, I respect what they're trying to do, but the attempt does not always equal the satisfaction of watching. It's like, I get what you're trying to do, and I appreciate them for that, but if I'm judging them as movies, they're just boring. And so that'll bring me to my first point about why Man of Steel is great. So after many attempts, including the one that came out only a few years before it, in Superman Returns, Superman finally throws a punch.
Yes.
In fact, he throws many punches.
And he does more than just that.
At several adversaries.
Yes.
It's like, finally, this is what Superman should be. It's an action movie. It's not some weird thing about... I don't even know what the hell the first one is.
Yeah, I remember... Well, when I watched it when I was a kid, I just remember saying to myself, like, this looks really old. You know, like, the effects are... They don't hold up well. Like, they don't look great.
I don't give a shit about that. I'm not talking about the effects. Well, I mean, that's part of it. But what I'm saying is, I'm like, Superman, and I've kind of always had this problem with Superman. It's like, I just want to see him kick someone's ass.
Yeah, and that's
like,
that's why I didn't like
strong. Yeah,
that's why I didn't like the first one. Is because he's Lex Luthor's the villain, so he's like, he doesn't fight anybody. He just like saves people, which is cool and that's fine.
They could have done something. It's just like get out your thinking caps.
Yeah,
like, let's make this a movie. It's like, oh, why doesn't Luthor get in some weird suit? Yeah, there we go. Now he can fight Superman. Just something. Or, oh, he's super smart, right? So he hires these other super goons to fight him. Something. Right. Give us something to fucking work with.
And that's why I thought Returns was even more of a serious offender because, like, we have the technology now to, like, stage a Superman fight. And there are even a couple scenes there where, like, the scene with the minigun where, like, the dude's shooting at Superman and he shoots Superman in the eye. And then, like, we cut away from, like, Superman smiling. Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what happened? Did Superman, like, blow him away or, like, punch him or what? Like, come on. I want to see Superman in action here.
That's what I've always had this problem when... And this is a fiction thing. When you got super strong people, it's like, think of them like a silverback gorilla. Mm-hmm. It's like, it'd be really boring to watch a silverback gorilla fight a person because it would kill the person immediately. Mm-hmm. But if you get another silverback gorilla, again, okay, this is weird. Maybe shouldn't be condoning animal cockfighting, but I'm saying like
you see them doing a territorial fight or whatever.
Yeah, it's like this is,
there's conflict here.
There's definitely more conflict for that gorilla.
I agree.
So Superman, it's like get other super people for him to fight. And they did that in the original Superman 2. And again, they're sort of limited on what they could do, but that's why I think Superman 2 of the Donner movies is way better. So actually I kind of take back what I said about all of them being boring, but it's like, come on, like let's make this interesting.
But like, to be fair, even like the technology is, for me, for Man of Steel, what makes this movie, because even the fights in Superman 2 compared to like, fucking Superman punching Zod through a grain silo. Yeah. It looks like fucking dog shit. Like, it looks horrible. Like, I'm not gonna
Superman 2.
And I can appreciate it for being historically like, okay, this is one of the first superhero movies. Like, we got to ease into this, of course. The technology's budding.
Yeah.
But like, I'm not gonna lie to myself and be like, oh, it looks good, right? It's like, no, it doesn't look very good. It doesn't age well. But I respect it. I do respect it. And I like Christopher Reeve. But I wanted to see a movie where Superman finally threw down with somebody of his like.
That's
and they
what
did
I mean. That. And I get that Superman, unlike a lot of other heroes, a lot of his focus is about saving rather than fighting. Mm-hmm. I get that that's part of his thing. But call me a fight fan, if you will. But it's just like, I just want to see some ass beatings dealt out. Because it's like, at the end of the day, what genre is a superhero movie really? It's action.
It's an action movie, yeah.
And it's like, go sci-fi. What are most sci-fis? Action. Mm-hmm. So it's like, give us a legitimate action movie in the ilk of, I guess this is going to sound kind of crazy, but like, make Commando, but about superheroes. And what I mean about that is that Commando is, well, it's got exaggerated circumstances, a hero that is just does some crazy shit, and some good fight scenes.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can have Superman saving people and showing that he's good, as well as punching people.
Yes.
Like, is that so much to ask for?
Yes.
And that brings me to my next major point about this movie. One of the most seemingly idiotic complaints that I heard about Man of Steel was, there's too much destruction in the end. I'm like, what are you talking about? There's too much destruction in this movie about superhuman people who can just smash through buildings.
Right.
What are you expecting them to do? It's like, this pornography film has too much fornication.
Yeah.
That's about the level of idiocy in that statement. Or I guess short-sightedness. Mm-hmm. Like, I get it. Sometimes you don't want to have a movie that's just nothing but action. Well, actually, maybe you do.
For sure. I mean, Mad Max Fury Road was that, and that kind of worked.
It had basically no plot, and it was awesome.
Right.
Okay, I get it, though. People want a story. That's great. And this had enough of a story.
I think it had a lot of story.
Yeah, it had a good amount of story. And then people complain about too much action in this action movie. Can you imagine a review? Too action-packed.
Yeah.
Instead of, because people usually say, it's action-packed.
Yeah. Too exciting.
It'll have you on the edge of your seat. And frankly, I don't like that.
I mean, I get the audience's problem with it, where it's like, oh, Superman's punching Zod through a building. Like, that's not cool. Like, wouldn't Superman, like, try to, like, not do that? And, like, I get that. But, like, assuming that, like, people are getting hurt is, like, it's a bit of a leap on you as an audience member to assume. Because we don't ever, like, hear, like, oh, 10 million people die. Like, we don't hear shit like that. Like, and they specifically not, they don't tell you that because it's not really integral to this story. I mean, it becomes integral to Batman v Superman, but obviously there are also things in there like Superman, for the most part, kind of tries to divert the action or divert the violence, and Zod kind of seems to be the one that wants to inflict violence on buildings and shit. Right.
It's like he can only do so much to stop him.
Right. This is his first outing.
Right. And on top of that, it's like, if you really want to be that nitpicky, I don't get why people chose this movie for that it's like, fine, then you should have a problem with basically every action movie. It's like, when Rambo's shooting, he should watch where he's shooting. There could have been friendly fire.
Right. Exactly.
He didn't know who was living in that hut he exploded or some shit like that.
Yeah. Another point, bringing it into like Superman himself, one of the things about, I hate ragging on the Richard Donner films, but like one of the things that I really as a kid struggled with was identifying with Christopher Reeve's Superman. Like, and I get you're not supposed to. He's supposed to be this ideal, he's supposed to be this superhero. Lois, you shouldn't smoke, and like that was cool and all, but I didn't like that interpretation of Superman. I liked the idea that like he is a fucking guy, like, and he has to go home, and he has to like deal with the fact that like he could beat the shit out of anybody, like kill anybody, like he could flick somebody into space, like that idea I thought was hammered home really well in this. And I thought Henry Cavill, and specifically the interpretation of the character of Superman, I'd never really seen that in a movie before,
Right.
And I loved it. I loved seeing him deal with like, oh my God, what do I do with all this power? Like, do I save people? Do I fucking hide it? Seeing Pa Kent like try and like reason with Superman, like, dude, they're gonna fucking kill you, like, if you come out, like, and seeing the Jor-El struggle.
They'd try.
Well, yeah, and they would succeed.
Hey, that's another point. That beginning was so awesome.
Oh yeah, the Krypton stuff.
The whole Krypton thing was so great, and I think that's how a great movie should be. A lot of times, is each scene could feel like almost like its own movie, or each larger set piece.
Right.
And I definitely got that vibe there. The whole Krypton setup, of all the depictions of that, I don't think I've ever seen as good of one as in Man of Steel.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, for better or for worse, even though the show looks shitty, I guarantee you that had a large part in why there is
the sci-fi
Krypton show. Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of good ideas in this, and I think that even people who dislike the movie agree. Like, seeing the scene of like Jor-El like struggling to save his planet and all that shit, and like seeing the scene of Superman trying to decide whether or not to use his powers or save his own dad, like that scene really got me. I'm like, damn, this is like, fuck, this is good shit. Because I'd never really seen, like, the comics version of that is like, well, Pa Kent dies of a heart attack. It's the one thing Superman can't prevent.
Yeah.
But like, that's even more fucked up. It's like, there's all these people watching, but like, Pa Kent doesn't want him to fucking save him because he wants his son to be okay. And I'm like, damn, this is some deep shit in the Superman action movie.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he wants him to be, normal, for lack of a better term.
Right.
He doesn't, even if he can kick everyone's ass, it's like he doesn't want him to feel like the weight of the world is on his shoulders. And of course, spoilers, it's time to talk about some of the ending stuff.
Some neck snappery?
Yeah, some neck snappery. So, okay, I'll slightly level with people on this. Maybe that wasn't the best way to do it.
Right.
But in its defense, it was supposed to be one of those scenarios. So he's like, you know what? Maybe he started to realize mid-battle, this isn't really working out. I'm getting mad. Again, he's human, for lack of a better term. Superman's mad, especially when they go after Ma Kent.
Yes.
And he takes on the other Kryptonian bad guys. Right. Like Feora and the big dude.
Yeah.
So he's starting to realize, oh shit, this is what Pa Kent was getting me all worried about. I can't, lose my sight.
Exactly.
Of what's important. So he's like, well, there's innocent people here. The Zod guy is an asshole. I don't see any way out of this. It seems like he's so hell-bent on getting the last laugh,
right?
Even though the machines have been stopped, which, by the way, was also really cool.
Oh, the big machines, terraforming things.
Yeah, the terraforming machines,
the world engines.
Yeah, when he took them down, that was great stuff.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is a science fiction action movie that Superman should be. Gigantic machines. You've got Superman flying around. He's got to take them down.
Yeah,
got some cool stuff. And honestly, I think I told you about this. They literally read my mind. Because I thought to myself, man, this movie is awesome. You know what I could use, though? Just one more, and then Zod's like, rah! like mid-thought. It's just like, just one more, boom, hits him, and then they start fighting. I'm like, yes! I'm like, one more pointless battle. That's the other thing. Everyone who hates, even if the battle is pointless, then don't like Lethal Weapon. Mm-hmm. Why on earth does there need to be a last scene in Lethal Weapon? The guy's literally surrounded by the cops. And it's raining. It's like, I don't think this guy's going to get very far.
Right.
Like, he probably doesn't have good visibility. You know, it's dark out.
The logistics of it.
Yeah, I'm talking.
Yeah.
He's probably tired.
He's probably exhausted.
Probably exhausted.
Yeah.
But Riggs is like, no. Let me at him. And he's like, but that's a character moment. Riggs is like, I don't just want to win. I want to win definitively.
Yeah.
He's like, I want to win in a savage, hand-to-hand combat fight in the rain for no reason, absolutely at all. But that was great. Yeah. Sometimes I'll see a movie and I'll think of scenes like that. I'm like, well, that was pointless. But I think of it after the fact. I'm like, but did it really detract from the movie? No.
It kind of adds to Zod's character in that he's like, fuck it, I lost. I might as well make you lose. You know?
It's like, I'm going to drag you down to my level.
Exactly.
Or I'm not leaving empty-handed. Mm-hmm. So that's why that fight happens. That's my excuse for why it's not completely, not a completely pointless add-on.
Right.
And first of all, or secondly, that fight is amazing.
Yes. It's real fun.
It doesn't get much better than that. You were talking about the idea of, even if it's all CGI shots in certain parts, there is choreography involved.
Exactly.
Just like there's choreography in like a
car chase.
Yeah, a car chase, or even in animation. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of Family Guy's fight scenes are good. Like they're
chicken
good
fights.
They're good choreography,
right?
Because the idea doesn't mean it's choreographed just because there's actual stunt work. Mm-hmm. There's still the idea behind. You have to have the movements planned out, how it's going to work.
Well, that's a whole other thing too. Is I would say the technical aspects of this movie are real solid.
Right.
Specifically, the look and sound of it. I love the score for this fucking movie, and I'm a self-fucking-proclaimed
Hans Zimmer fanboy.
Hans Zimmer file. God damn it,
we all are.
Oh yeah, at heart we all are. But man, I really loved. I mean, nothing's gonna beat the John Williams Superman theme, of course. Yeah. But I really loved the Hans Zimmer sound of this. You know, he really incorporated. I mean, there's like guitars in it and stuff. Like he really wanted this. I was reading up like he wanted the Superman score to sound like really American. Like there was a lot of guitars and like drums and stuff. Yeah, it's really cool. And a lot of people didn't like the look of this movie. They're like, this is a dark movie,
yeah,
and I'm
too
like,
gray.
But we've seen the colorful Superman movies before. You know, like the Donner films are real colorful.
See, that's the other thing is people like Superman because he's so popular. Mm-hmm. He's also, and because he's been so everywhere. Mm-hmm. He's also kind of a target of some criticism. He's a Mary Sue. He's boring. Mm-hmm. He's like his only weakness is kryptonite. Like blah blah. He's too perfect. And it's like, all right, you want an imperfect Superman? Ask and you shall receive. Time to knock over buildings and maybe snap a neck or two. Right. So back to that real quick though. So he's like, shit, I've got to stop this guy. I'm not going to be happy with this, but here goes, crack. And on top of that, did he look like he was all that pleased about that?
Not quite.
No. So Zod still kind of won in a weird way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Superman did what he had to, and that's the thing. Superman, there was a whole theme about making choices. Yeah. He had to make a tough one.
Yeah, a lot of the movie is Superman making tough choices.
And who knows? He probably should have chosen some better choices on how not to get into that situation with Zod. But lo and behold, he was there. He had to do something.
There he was. Union Station in Chicago.
Union Station, and with children watching. And it's just like, watch this. It's not like he's like, hey kids, watch this.
Watch this shit.
He's like, yeah, brah. Like that's what's up. Starts pissing on Zod's dead body. Yeah, that's what's up, bro. Yeah, like, he wasn't happy about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that move is an interesting one, and it's something that.
So again, but that's what I'm saying is harkens back to this is gonna be a little darker. Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, like Superman realizes
he's not a bad person for doing it.
Yeah.
It's a moral dilemma. Like, that's the point. Like, you, the audience member, supposing to, like, feeling uncomfortable by what you've just seen. It's like, well, yeah, that's that's the point. It's like, this isn't supposed to be the Superman like you know and love. Like, this isn't, the George Reeves, 1950s serial Superman or the TV show. This isn't that. This is now Superman.
Right.
And I thought for what that was, bringing Superman into the present, mind, I thought it worked very well. It was very. People think it's dumb. I think it's really smart. I think 2/3 of this movie is setup. It's just thematics and emotional storytelling. There's a fight scene, here and there, and like there's an oil rig savior scene, or like Superman throwing a semi truck through some trees, scene here and there. But like it's all character building. It's all origin story.
Exactly, and through that we get a different Superman, but at the end of the day, it's not like this is such a far shot from what Superman is in the comics, for instance. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is, I understand, because I'm definitely a vocal critic. When you stray too far from source material, you kind of wonder, like, what the hell even is this? Mm-hmm. But there was no point in time during this movie where I thought, this isn't Superman at all.
Right.
Like, no, this is definitely still Superman. I would say I'd have a bigger problem with his portrayal in the next movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, which isn't even arguably a Superman movie, is it?
Right. Mm-hmm. Which could have to do with some of his depictions in that movie.
Right.
But again, in this, I think his depiction was fine. I think the action was fine. I think the cinematography was, like, overall, it was pretty fine. Like,
yeah.
I think, like,
the acting's great.
Yeah.
Like, everyone was great. Like, I loved, like, Michael Shannon as Zod chewing up scenery. Hilarious. Feora's great.
She was creepy, man.
I like Henry Cavill as Superman. A lot of people don't. Like, they think he's very wooden. I couldn't disagree more. I think his Superman, his Clark Kent, is like the most human.
He was really wooden when he screamed after.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real deadpan. He's like, snap neck, No, actually, he was like screaming. He was
crying.
Not pleased.
Blubbering, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really well done. Russell Crowe, I love Jor-El.
Right.
It cracked me up when he was like that GPS on that ship.
Yeah.
Go this way.
Yep. It's good stuff.
I love the movie, and I saw it 3 times in theaters. I will admit it.
3 times, man. That's more than I saw it.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it's like, I got to show my dad. Now I got to show my brother.
Yeah.
I love it, man. It's still probably my favorite, not MCU, DCEU flick.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite DC movie.
Mm-hmm. Sure, well, maybe not closely followed, but followed by Wonder Woman.
Yeah, okay. I would say it's actually, I wouldn't say it's definitely my favorite, but Wonder Woman is relatively close.
Yeah, Wonder Woman is another discussion for another day, but that movie's dope.
Yeah, both of them are good, mm-hmm. And I think that's part of what we've been saying about a lot of these DC movies. Is it seems like the team up ones are the ones they have trouble, and the solo ones are good.
Yeah.
So you know what? In closing, I think that fight was fucking awesome. I don't give a shit what anyone says.
And I think Man of Steel is fucking awesome.
Exactly. And there you have it. We thought highly of a film that dared to have a pointless, almost Dragon Ball Z-esque fight scene at the end, where many buildings were smashed, many punches were thrown, and laser beams were even involved. How can you not enjoy that? So while you may want to grab your torches and pitchforks, we enjoyed Man of Steel. Okay, well, I mean, that was a bit of overkill, guys.